Oh.
Now, if you have been pulled over for a traffic violation, think about calling Mike Carter and the people over at 45bucks.com, the very qualified lawyers at 45bucks.com. 314-895-4040. That's 314-895-4040. DWIs, well, that's didyoublow.com. And both of these websites, didyoublow.com, 45bucks.com, the most authoritative on those kind of laws, DWI and traffic law. Traffic law, 45bucks.com, DWI, didyoublow.com, 314-895-4040. Here's a question, the 636. How would Mike Carter handle a boating while intoxicating charge? And will it ever affect my driving record?
Oh.
Ride the snake, the viper rocks.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Right. Well, it's funny you said ride the snake because that's one of the problems with boating while intoxicated is you're kind of like riding a snake when you do the
Gotta watch it.
when you do the field sobriety test. You know, if you're watching the finger in front of your face or walking a straight line or trying to hold one leg in the air for 30 seconds, whatever it is. On a boat, that's tough. They have to find some stable landing for you to do those things on. BWI is replete with problems, you know, in the boating world because of the environment that you're in. And, you know, the one guy was not killed, but became, you know, unalive last year or the year before.
Wait. I like that term. He became unalive.
That was lawyer speak.
Your Honor, I'm not saying he was dead.
He just was not
He
alive.
was just unalive. Okay? Wasn't dead.
Well, he was taken. I think he was suspected of BWI in the Ozarks, and that officer let him fall off the back with his hands behind his back or
That's
something.
right. He was handcuffed.
Right, I believe that was
He drowned.
I think that was a BWI suspected incident.
Oh, my God.
And that shows you therein lies the problems with some of the BWI accusations. But I know some people, we've defended them, and it is a law, and they will affect you just the same as a DWI on your record. It will enhance a second crime. If you do another one, you'll have a misdemeanor A. The next one will be a felony. So, yeah, they're just as detrimental as a DWI.
How cool of a job would that be? Just be driving around
BWI officer
on the Lake of the Ozarks, just cruising around at 80 miles an hour, pulling these cats over, giving them tests in bikinis. Hello.
in bikini.
Yes.
Yeah, the officers wear uniforms.
Oh, well, screw
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure they do. Nice.
Somebody else has a question about searching the car that I want to get to in a second, but I also want to mention that we're not the only ones that use our bully pulpit sometimes to complain about getting pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
Shepard Smith was going off the other day about it.
Yesterday we were driving, as I mentioned, from Tampa all the way to New Orleans because we couldn't get flights.
Wow.
And one of the best parts of that drive is over Mobile Bay. Absolutely gorgeous. And in fact, all of South Alabama was perfect until we met up with one of Alabama's finest who really didn't think we should be going 12 miles over the speed limit.
Oh.
But, I mean, $180 and 3 points later, I don't know what you're going to do about it. But I know that South Alabama is safer now thanks to the fact that my 82 and a 70 got penalized.
See, he needs to call Mike Carter.
Some bitch.
Mike Carter could go down to Alabama and fight that, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. We got to do a thing called Pro Hoc Vici. They have to let us in, but I've never had anybody deny it.
There you go, 314-895-4040. So, yes, somebody text about the right to search a vehicle. Can you ask Mike what constitutes the right for an officer to search my automobile?
Good question.
That's a very good question.
Well, if officer safety, any of the things that you could reach immediately from the driver's seat or wherever you are, an officer potentially could look into those areas of the vehicle to make sure he's not going to get shot or stabbed.
Like a weapon. You're talking weapons.
Right. Within the reach of the driver, whoever's being pulled over, if those areas could be reached, then the officer can look around in those areas.
So, like, if you pull over a guy that's just gone deer hunting,
yeah,
and he's got his rifle or whatever there, I can understand that.
Right.
But what about when there are clearly no weapons visible? Then they want to search your vehicle.
So they would have to articulate a reason if they're in hot pursuit of somebody around in the area with a similarly described car, that kind of thing.
Well,
if you're acting fidgety,
probable cause. That's such a vague term to me when they throw
reasonable
that out
suspicion.
there.
That's the whole problem with the indictment on Mike Brown is that that reasonable suspicion or probable cause is a very low threshold. It's somewhere some judges have begrudgingly said it's around 30% or something. 30% likelihood that something might be going on. Now, you can't hold me to that because all judges will say the same thing. It's not 25, it's not 42, but it ends up in like the 1/3 realm. Is there enough suspicious type things going on that I suspect there's a little bit of a probable cause, a reasonable suspicion? We get so caught up in the words, they kind of become the meaning, but it's like a tautology itself. But anyway, if those types of confusing or circumstances exist in the reasonably prudent officer's mind, they then might be fearful for them reaching and grabbing a gun or a knife. Kind of like that video you showed 2 or 3 weeks ago where the lady in the back is talking to somebody on her phone and the cops are standing outside of the window. She's talking about the cop's gun outside the window, but she keeps saying gun, gun, gun on the phone. If an officer hears that looking in, he doesn't know what she's talking about. Get the gun, kill the officer type thing. So you become
hearing his gun.
Right. Yeah. Now you have some suspicion.
Yeah, there's a lot. You brought up Ferguson. And we haven't talked to you since that whole thing.
Who brought up Ferguson?
Mike did.
Mike did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
right, he did.
You haven't chimed in on that. How does can you talk about it? Because you're going to be a judge here pretty soon, probably.
Yeah, I can't. I think it's risky.
At any moment, Mike is going to become a judge.
I don't know.
It could happen in the next 5 minutes.
He might.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I sign up like December 20th for the Wentzville judgeship.
He might start glowing immediately.
I hope you get it.
It is. It's a very scary area. You know, some of the things I've read on Facebook and in the news and on the comments are. I think, as an officer of the court, that, in short, if they wanted an indictment,
yes,
they would have got one.
Wrong.
Really?
No.
Because I heard a lot of legal analysts saying what Mr. McCullough did was actually very nice to the other side. He really didn't have a case to begin with, but to be fair,
right,
he wanted to just put it all out there and let the grand jury decide, but you see it differently.
If a prosecutor wants an indictment, they get one. It's it's nearly no fallibility. It's if I want one, I get one. And he can bring charges without a grand jury instantly and go straight to trial. It doesn't even have to do the grand jury. That doesn't mean I agree or disagree with what happened or occurred, but if every defendant in the state of Missouri got the same treatment that case did, you know, we would be very happy as defense attorneys. There would probably, everybody would get off constantly. You heard every exculpatory thing that could be brought forward in front of a grand jury. And then, if I understand things right, they used a law that had been deemed unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court as a defense tactic for the officer up until the last 2 days, where they just remembered. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but then they had to re-educate the grand jury that, oh no, that law actually doesn't apply as a defense for officers. That law was deemed
but there's laws in this country, you know, and the whole thing was based on a lie, right? From Dorian Johnson and
Dorian Johnson. What, the whole hands up thing? And he really didn't have his hands up.
It was a lie, and I think that the grand jury was the ones that basically went in there and said that nothing is true. That is, the witnesses on the ground this is completely false.
Well, one of our attorneys has been reading through all of the transcripts. And there are several witnesses with differing opinions and views about hands up, hands down, and all that. If you sit down with the boring task and read them all.
But the forensic evidence doesn't support any of that stuff, right?
Well, there was one. I saw one witness, I guess, that said he was shot in the top of the head, like execution style.
Yeah.
And they were saying to that guy, well, that the evidence, the physical evidence, doesn't support that he was shot at close range, top of the head. I don't know.
I know one of the coroners or somebody's being called out right now because they don't have any of the requisite licensure or degrees to have done any of it.
Michael Boden's person. Yeah,
I don't know who's. Yeah, right.
Not the St. Louis County Medical Examiner. She's got a pretty good reputation
Could
worldwide.
Be, yeah.
Mary Case. Yeah.
If anybody, I think anyone who would tell you that he couldn't get an indictment if he wanted to is being disingenuous.
But don't you think that would have been worse? Don't you think that would have been worse because all these lies would have come out? It would have made the family maybe feel worse about all this.
Do you really believe that if he would have gotten an indictment, he would have had much of a case going in there and trying to a winnable case?
One of the things Prosecutor Lomar, I heard him say in the flesh, not in the flesh, I watched him on KSDK Channel 5, was if you're prepared to make a grand jury indict somebody, which they basically can do, make them do it. They get it if they want it. You better be prepared to find them guilty as well. So ethically, Bob McCullough or a prosecutor, if they seek an indictment or bring charges, they should feel pretty good about proving them as they get to trial.
Yeah.
So that's the counterpoint to what I'm saying is you can indict a ham sandwich, but you better be able to find it guilty as well.
Right.
So
Well, now there's talk all week. One of the big stories, one of the big updates is that they're considering charging Lewis Head,
Stepdad?
Michael Brown's stepdad, for this deal after the verdict was announced, or the decision.
I've been hurt my whole life. I ain't never had to go through nothing like this.
Now, that's Michael Brown's mom.
Don't none of y'all know me, but I don't do nothing to nobody. Anybody say so, they a lie. They a damn lie.
We know it. We know it.
We want justice.
For real, like just a minute.
And then here's where he starts saying, let's burn this. And then there were over 20 fires that night. So could he be charged with inciting a riot, in your opinion, Mike?
I mean, normally, what I've heard about is if you're in a crowded theater and you yell fire, that kind of thing, and some people get stomped to death on the way out, that's a problem. I don't know if that's inciting a riot. With him being in that environment, usually what we were taught in law school is mob mentality, where the individuals all meld into this mob mentality. You don't necessarily see people get charged individually for actions that they do when they're in this mob mentality, and I think that he's going to probably fall into that exception.
Yeah. So you think no charges? It would look weird, wouldn't it look weird if St. Louis County ended up charging him but not Darren Wilson?
What would be really weird is if they didn't give him a 3-month indictment proceeding.
Right, all going through the same ordeal that they did. Yeah, that would. 314.
Imagine the witnesses for that. What are there, 180 people there?
In the national media.
Right.
Last question for the break, real quick. A guy texted about a Class 3 felony. Class 3? Never heard it put like that.
A, B, C, and D. They're switching them. Come 2017, there's going to be another smaller level, I think, a E felony, but there shouldn't be a Class 3.
For cannabis, 32 grams. Wants to know what he should do about that.
Smoke it.
Usually it's less than 35 or over 35.
Okay.
28 grams, I guess, is an ounce. Is that right?
Oh, boy, you're asking the wrong person.
They consider that, it's right between 28 and 35. They consider that a personal amount. So the law reflects that. And anything under or over 35 grams triggers different levels of applicability of the laws and the penalties.
Hey, if you've got a traffic violation or a DWI that you're dealing with or someone close to you is dealing with, to call 314-895-4040 and get more information, or go online, DidYouBlow.com or 45bucks.com. DidYouBlow.com for all your DWI info and 45bucks.com for any routine stop. I mean, routine stops starting at $45. That's pretty good. 314-895-4040. Mike Carter.
The Hangover.